Shalom, Reb Hershey Friedman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having us here in the Azorim of Motza Elite. We'll get also to this project, of course. But first of all, where do you live nowadays?
I live in Montreal. Actually, I live on an airplane, to be honest.
You live on an airplane?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Because you're building the land of Israel.
I am building a lot in Israel. I come here very often. I was here last week. I was here the week before, and I was here 2 weeks prior.
When did it start that you really started putting in much effort into building here in Israel?
I started very small about 20 years ago. And as I think you know the story, how do you make a little bit of money in Israel? Is you bring lots of money and you go home with a little bit of money.
That's how you make money?
That's the typical joke of how do you make a little bit of money in Israel. But I started about 20 years ago, really small projects. It wasn't what you call main business. I was coming here because my children, in a sense, were studying over here in yeshiva. Then when they were married, and I had one child married and studying here, and 2 and 3. So as I was coming and visiting them so often, I started what you call putting my heart into Israel a little bit and starting to do some developments. I felt it was the right thing.
You mentioned the heart and you mentioned business. It was just both goes together?
Yeah. The beginning wasn't sort of like I made the joke before. You make a little bit. But the goal was, being I'm coming here so much, let's try to develop Israel.
Wow. So now tell us first of all about what projects you are involved in here in Israel.
Well, we run about 25 projects at a time. But some key projects one is Boutique Hanavim.
In Jerusalem?
In Jerusalem, which if you want to have the most magnificent view of the Kotel, that is really the right location. If you go over there, you go on top of the rooftop and you look at the view, it's to die for.
You see many of the people that buy, but it's as an apartment that they come to visit, not their permanent apartment. They live in America, they live out of Israel, but they come and they want an apartment, a nice, sometimes very expensive apartment, smack in the middle of Jerusalem.
Let me add on to that. It's not they come occasionally. I have a lot of friends that live around me, we're in the synagogue, and they have apartments over here. It seems to be a terminology over here, it's the dark apartments.
Because they're dark, the light is out.
But they're not really as dark as you think about it. Most of these people have it for themselves so they can come here Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, and other times during the course of the year.
And from my experience, they also come more and more. It begins with let's have for a month or 2.
Exactly. But then you add on, their children come to study over here.
Right.
So they move in. The children get married. And they're going to be here in Israel 1 year, 2, 3, 4, 5. They move in. Mm-hmm. Then a second child gets married. They move in.
So it becomes a house of lots of light.
Exactly. So this terminology where it's dark occasionally. But if you really consider it, it's occupied a lot of the time.
You mentioned that you made the decision, and we see you now really with so many projects here in the land of Israel. Does it still move you emotionally, the fact that you're actually building it?
Yeah, it's exciting.
The prophets talk about this happening.
I have to tell you, it's really exciting when you see you're developing, whether it be over here, Motza, which again, Motza has a magnificent view of all of Israel. You go on top over here, you look out. You can see Jerusalem on one side, Tel Aviv on the second side. You're surrounded. It's a circle and all these gorgeous, gorgeous view. It's exciting that you're developing Israel. There is an excitement. Every time I come here, I feel great. You know, today what you go through Europe, anti-Semitism and so on. We listen, we look, we hear, and then we say, fine, where do these people want to live? Where can we go and develop for them so then when they come to Israel, they can have an area. You have Netanya. Netanya is very much the French and the British.
You're building there as well?
We're building in Netanya. We've had numerous projects. We're putting up 3 beautiful buildings going up right now, pretty much sold out.
To what level, by the way, do you try to fit your projects to the target audience? Even in the design of the homes, you sometimes try to fit what the people are familiar with when they're from abroad?
Okay, so the only place that is different is America, where the apartments and the rooms are big, humongous. In Europe, the apartments are maybe a little bit bigger than Israel, but they're not humongous. Mm-hmm. So Israeli style of apartments, maybe you make it a little bit bigger. but you don't have to make it as big as American.
So for the Americans, would you add some mirrors so it looks bigger?
No, I built over there actually in Arzia Bira. I designed it American style.
Really.
What I did is I looked at my house, a certain segment, and I said is, what would I like as an American if I came to live in Israel? A master bedroom, how big should it be? A children's room, what size should it be? So I basically took 2 children's rooms, I measured it, and I said, fine, these will be the 2 children's rooms and a master bedroom. This is the size. And they were built. So they're nice and spacious. So they were built very much for Americans at a reasonable price. It's around the yeshiva areas, so it's going to be occupied most of the time.
You mentioned yeshivas, and we know that you're very connected to the world of Torah. This is something that for you is like a main part of what you're doing?
It's part of giving back to society. Okay, I don't only give to yeshivas, I give to hospitals. We build a lot of yeshivas, we build a lot of shuls, we build it in Israel, we build it in North America, we publish a lot of Hebrew books. We've republished an up-to-date Talmud, we've republished the Shulchan Aruch up-to-date, and numerous other books. I've probably published in Israel 1,000 books in the last 20 years. That's nothing to do with business.
Nothing to do with business.
It's all charity work. So the Jewish people, we've updated, fixed all the errors and the mistakes with time. As you know, they started publishing books hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Every time they republished, it's typeset. You're missing a certain letter, you substitute for it. So another mistake has been created, and another mistake. Today with technology and computers, you can overcome those errors. Mm-hmm. So I would say today when we're republishing the Hebrew books, they're 99.9% corrected.
Reb Hershey, I understand that you consult with rabbis throughout all this business and all the money and the economic issues. You're connected to rabbis.
Yes, my primary rabbi over here in Israel is Rabbi David Abichatzira, who is the grandson of Baba Sali, which everybody has heard of him. Basically, I see him on a regular basis, consult with him on projects, especially if there's difficult situations. I'll go and see him together, even with my CEO. We consult, we discuss, and he's a very, very smart person.
How does it happen when we see a new project in the middle of Jerusalem? Nevi'im is a central street.
Nevi'im didn't just happen overnight. It's over many, 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 many years. So it can take 10 years until, from beginning till you get it going, until you're building, until you're selling it, is a long, long time. So it's a new project because we're just finishing it. But we started many years ago. You buy the land, and then you go through all the authorities, and then through your contractor, and through your design and everything. It takes a long period of time.
And in Jerusalem also, when you build, it has to fit into the atmosphere and the mood of Jerusalem.
Exactly. And you also have to look at what exactly are you building, who are you building for, what is the purpose. In Israel, there's a terminology, leasehold, freehold. And leasehold typically is most real estate in Israel is owned by the government, and you have a lease on it. 99-year lease, of course, that keeps going down as time goes on, and then it's renewed automatically. In Jerusalem, most of Jerusalem is really owned by the church. I'll use that terminology. Which, again, has a lease, and then the lease dwindles. By us, King David, we built that project, and as we started selling, the lawyers that were making the contracts for the buyers realized there was a very short lease left over, which created a major problem because you never know where the church can decide. Instead of paying a little bit for the lease, they can come in and just go crazy on what they would want for the lease. So we bought the land from the church. Meaning it's a freehold.
Wow.
So L'olam Voed, you, your children, your grandchildren, L'olam Voed, forever it's yours, you don't have to worry about a leasehold. That was one. The second one was also Butik HaNevi'im. We bought it basically from the church again. So these are two unique projects which are freehold. It's forever yours. You never have to worry about a leasehold. It makes it more expensive because buying out the leases was very, very costly. So when people say that these two projects are more expensive than your next door neighbor,
it's because it's really your apartment.
Because it's really yours and we paid a lot of money for it.
Wow.
So it's very important that people don't realize it, but one day the church will wake up and say, you know what, we can make a lot of money.
Now, when our viewers will watch this interview and see your story, they might say it's very nice that he's helping, but he's able to help. But your personal story also teaches us how one can develop into the state you are today. I understand that you didn't begin from a wealthy family or a big business.
I wasn't handed over a silver spoon on a golden platter. I worked for what I have today.
So what are your tips for people who want to develop in the world of business, want to succeed?
I started back, my first years in business was 1967. Okay, I was basically a teenager. I had just finished yeshiva. I finished high school. We're three brothers. My elder two brothers decided to continue on yeshiva longer. I joined the business. When I was 10 years old, my father was involved in a serious car accident. Therefore, my mother had to take over the business, raised three beautiful children, continued sending them to schools, and as we turned 13, each one of them, she sent us out of town to yeshivas. In the meantime, had to run a business, take care of a husband that was still he was in a hospital for 6, 7, 8 years.
Wow.
So try to run a business, bring up children, hold a household, take care of a sick husband. She had a difficult time, yet she accomplished it. So I was more business oriented, even as a little child. I was always somehow or other making money. Whether it was selling pencils as a little kid, or going to construction sites as I was getting a little bit older, and asking the people, can I get you your lunch? And I'd get, do you want whatever, a sandwich or this, and a soda and a coffee. And I'd go to the local restaurant and buy it for them, take it up. They give you a nice tip. At the end of the day, you pick up the empty bottles, you go cash them in, you made some more money. So I was like a little businessman as a little kid and growing up. So when I graduated high school, I pretty much started going into business, which was 1967. And
right after high school?
Right after high school. So my parents were pretty much close to retirement, so I rejuvenated that business, bought brand new equipment, and moved to a new location. And now what I did is I went to college in the evening. I took commercial law and accounting. So I took evening, I went to college, in the daytime I worked. It was 4.5 years. All I needed was 5 years to get a degree, but business was good, and I went into 2 shifts. And it was a small company, so now you got to work 16 hours a day. So I just stopped going to college, but I got the base of my education was really worth it. I think
so it's a lot about working,
and getting educated at the same time.
Educated. As a businessman working in real estate in Israel, how do you see the attempts of the Israeli government to lower the prices? I mean, this of course maybe contradicts your business.
No, it doesn't contradict my business thinking, but I think the government contradicts itself. The government has made many attempts to slow down the cost of housing or try to bring it down. There's only one big problem, it happens over and over. The government will come out and say, we want low-income housing, and they'll regulate of what you can sell a house for. But one big problem. In order to get that piece of land, instead of the government giving it at a reasonable price, the government auctions it off to the highest bidder. You have a problem right now, because we have tried bidding on it, and it is just so expensive that we have
because the demand is so high, so people come with high prices, with high bids?
That's right. Because there is a shortage of land in Israel. Whether we like it or not, it is very difficult to find good land in Israel because most of it is private or owned by the government. And the government is not releasing enough land. If you're going to buy from private people, it's very, very expensive.
So, but do you think that the government should interfere financially at the point of the bid?
The answer is yes. They should regulate what you can sell a house for, but if you're going to go on a public auction where you're estimating the price should be X in order to be able to build affordable housing, but when you're going on public auction, the price just shoots up 2-3 times.
But then some would say that the government should also interfere when you set your price to sell the apartment, actually.
But it's based on what the land costs. So let's think for a moment. In Tel Aviv, the cheapest house is $1 million. In, let's take it in Nahariya, let's take that. You can buy over there for $200,000 a house. Why? Because the piece of land equivalent for an apartment in Tel Aviv is $1 million. In Nahariya, it's $25,000. The cost of construction, equal for equal, is the same price. Okay. So if you take the differential in the land value, that's where your saving is. So if it costs me $100,000 to build a unit, it costs me $100,000 in Nahariya, it costs me $100,000 in Tel Aviv.
Yeah, who will guarantee, but that if the state sells it for cheaper, who will guarantee to the clients, to the customers, that the real estate companies won't just go ahead and, because of the demand and
because you have a base.
Sell it
Remember,
expensive.
The land is the base. Okay, the land is the base of a house. Apple for apple, the same type of a house, of the same quality of construction, does not change anywhere in Israel. So the government knows what you're paying for the land, and we pretty much know what it costs to construct. And the government will say, you know what, you can make 15% profit on the physical construction, and the land, we sold it to you so we know what a unit is, so this is the price you can sell it for. That wouldn't be a problem. But with the government trying to regulate what you can sell a house for, and then the land goes up for public auction, it doesn't work. And I think that's where the main issue is. Why housing cannot come down is because the government is not helping it.
Okay, Rabbi Hershey Friedman, thank you very much for having us. It's nice meeting you.
My pleasure. Thank you.